We start our first question with Dr. Ali Rani. Sir, so we have a lot of questions regarding sports rehab and injury prevention. I would like to ask you, what role does strength training play in injury prevention for endurance athletes?
Good evening, everybody. I believe that sports is medicine. So, if you take sports in the right spirit and the right manner, it could be medicine. And if you can't, then you will require medicine. So, this is the baseline for all the sports medicine or your children being in sports. I always use the word prevention. So prevention is better than cure. So if the right measures are taken, say if I have to open the word prevention, I call P is for peak fitness, R is for regular training, E is for the endurance, V is for the vision. What's your vision for doing it? Right? Then coming to the next P, R, E, V, E again. So, doing what are your extracurricular, you do it with sports, right? Then T is the training, I is the injuries, O is the overtraining. That's the worst. When a sportsman doesn't perform, they overtrain themselves. They said instead of 1 hour, they make 2 hours. Instead of just having morning, they go morning and evening. So overtraining has got a syndrome. And I would just end it with one question. I asked them, how is your sleep? If the sleep is not proper and they are not getting sleep, that means somewhere they are overtraining. And the last N, prevention, N is for no to drugs. They should not be on any drug, means any medicine that are not allowed by the Olympic Committee. So this is in nutshell. So prevent is better. The team in 87, it was very difficult somebody to hit a sixer. So we were working on which muscles were the shoulder muscles. So when I started working on them, today sixes are outside the stadium also. So it's that simple. The strengthening plays a very important role. So if you allow me, I'll just discuss the parents' question. One, I want to let the parents know, between 12 and 14, allow your children to play any and every game. They have not decided. Let them enjoy the game.
Sir, Dr. Ajit, the next question is for you. As Dr. Ali Rani said that, allow the child to play whatever he would want to do. So as a pediatrician, how early should physical activity be introduced?
See, wonderful thing is, when the child is in the mother's womb only, from that time itself the child is moving. That goes with the age-old aphorism, that is Charayveti Charayveti, which is a very old 740 BC verse which says that you have to keep on moving, that will give you a longevity. So, moment the baby is born, he is going to move a lot, and roughly by the end of 3 to 5 years of age, he will be able to climb up and climb down, he will be able to ride a tricycle. So by the end of 5 years to say 7 years, child should be having a lot of activity, at least 180 minutes of activity in the playground or in the locality or with the peer group or with the family, friends. Sports is not going to be a medicine for that child, but the sports is going to be a literacy. It is going to be a literate culture for that child, family, teachers and surroundings. So it will involve a lot of games, plays, maybe slide, maybe swing, maybe Roman ring, maybe swimming, just hopping, maybe local games which traditionally are there in Indian culture, like tikkar billi, then lapandav or lagori or hopping or langadi, hututu, like that, So these are the games which will be introduced and eventually they will be doing. But bottom line, which is very important, which is nowadays is of great concern, is that no longer any screen which is thrown in front of the child. So there should not be zero, there should be zero exposure to the screen. At the same time, good nutrition, that is very important. Early, weaning should be very good. Screen time should be minimized. At the same time, child should be early to rise and go to bed early. At the same time, the traveling from the home to the school should be with the minimum. Nowadays a child average time taken by child to travel to preschool is almost half an hour. So that should be reduced. And most important, sleep should be 10 to 13 hours.
Everybody wants to know a lot about nutrition. So, how should runners, cyclists and swimmers fuel their bodies before, during and after the training?
So, one of the most important things when you want to move or any form of exercise, you need energy. So, with energy comes your intake of the macronutrients, which is your carbohydrates, your proteins and fats. Now, when we divide it in your pre, during and after. So typically 1 to 4 hours prior a workout, your glycogen stores need to be adequate. You need to have good energy. You should not feel hungry during a workout, and at the same time there should not be any GI discomfort. So in such case, it is important that you replenish with a good carbohydrate. So typically around 1 to 1.2 grams or 1 to 4 grams per kg body weight is what is recommended. And not going very high on the fiber load at the same time, which can cause a GI discomfort. Somewhere the protein also may play a role, going up to like 0.3 grams per kg body weight pre or post workout can be given. Not keeping the food very high on fat, because that can lead to sluggishness or sleepiness during the workout, low energy profile, but definitely you need some form of oil which may go in any kind of preparation. Like for example, if you make a poha, for example, if you make like a dal rice in, for example, you need some amount of oil will go in. This is pre-workout. Then comes during the workout. Now, if your workout is lesser than an hour, then during the workout you may not need, just hydrating yourself with adequate water will be enough. But if a workout is beyond an hour, less than 2.5 hours, that's where the hydration also becomes equally important. So hydrating yourself or even having carbohydrates ranging from 30 to 60 grams, which will be helpful. And if you're cycling, then every 45 minutes, replenishing with a carbo load, like a laddu can also be taken in. However, there are, workouts which will go beyond 2.5 hours also, when they're training for like a, marathon or maybe a triathlon. In such cases, I think a drink will also help, where you're replenishing your electrolytes, you're replenishing the fluid lost also. Some simple carbohydrates are also nutrition, like for swimming, because on land we all are experiencing it, but underwater we don't know how it would work. So,
good evening, everyone. Thanks to the organizer, Nanavati Max, and the panel. Yes, recovery is something very important, and nutrition plays a very important role. Here in India, basically, we have a lot of good sportsmen and athletes who trains, and we have a lot of talent, but where we lack is knowledge. So in my opinion, we have specialists, like we have nutritionists, and the parent or the sportsman should go to them and take the proper nutrition plan. That is what I say. As a sportsman, I know what to take, but that is good for my body, or probably the 2 or 5 people or my swimmers whom I know. But as we all have a different fingerprints, so all the bodies are different. So all the body requirement as per the sports they do is very different. So I feel one should take a professional help, and that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just take 1 minute. While the discussion.
No, I really wouldn't allocate cycling only as a fitness activity. It's more than a fitness activity for me, it's more of commute. Okay. I think there are a lot of problems with first infrastructure, road safety. Second comes yourself. So mainly you don't know how to cycle, you stop cycling after school, so you're 30, 40, you can't really initiate an activity. And the third comes our weather in Bombay. It is a hot, humid climate. So cycling as a full-time activity is difficult. But I think for a hobby in the morning, cycling is one of the best cardiac exercises, because it doesn't give you much of knee stress also. So I think cycling is a very good exercise for a morning cycling or running kind of exercise.
Thank you, sir. Moment.
So that's a very difficult one, because it depends upon the ability of the athlete. So you have recreations. Athletes who push themselves to the limit, and that limit is way higher than what an average people has or a recreational sportsman has. So the simplest thing to do is, say suppose you are a runner, and it is something that you started recently. So you run for 4 kilometers, and you suddenly realize that is a recreational runner I'm talking. I'm not talking for a novice, because you'll probably be panting at about 500 meters or 1 kilometer at the max. And then, as Sir said, you check your heart rate. You have a watch or something that will tell you what your heart rate is. And if you are at 160, 170 odd, you stop till it drops down to 140. You see how much you ran, the distance and the time, and you run again till it reaches 140, 160 again. And if that distance keeps reducing, at one point you realize that you can't run more than 30 seconds or a minute. You need to stop. Right? Because beyond that, you are getting into the last bit of reserve that your body has. At that time, you have to just stop, build your reserve again, come back the next day, jot them down, and start again. And you will realize that in, say, a 6 weeks period, your duration suddenly increases, your breaks reduce, and the amount of kilometer that you're traveling increases. And then you can start looking at the time. And there are people who say, I want to do a marathon in X amount of time. You've got to be mentally, physically ready for it. It is not that easy when we hear in the paper that somebody has done the Tata Marathon in X amount of time. They train like hell. They are athletes at a different level, with different mindset, different level of physiotherapy, different level of nutrition that they look at. So I think there are different things, and we cannot be comparing apples to oranges here. We have to look at what are you looking at, what level are you, and what is right for you. And I think heart rate is a very good indicator. When I exercise, even I look at it. So I say, okay, I'm 160, I stop. No matter what my gym trainer tells me to do, I will stop at 160. And then I'll wait for it to go down to 120, and then I'll restart the same schedule again. So that goes for every sport.
And so what are the most common
Swimming into open water, you need to definitely have a strength, the training, and the most important is your mental strength. Because when you are in the deep sea and you're swimming, so it's not only the water, it's the tides, the wind, the weather condition, and definitely the sea creatures, which matters a lot. So the mental conditioning is very important in that. And whereas it's come to training, so basically sea swimmers who do a solo swim of 10, 20, 30, 40 kilometers, the training is very important, and similarly is the diet, as I said, the nutrition, and with same, it goes your mental conditioning, which is really, really important, because there are jellyfishes, there are sharks, there are turtles, there are all type of creatures in the sea. So mentally, making yourself fit, meditation, yoga, that is really important when you are in the open sea.
Race, or is it just a cyclotron? See, excessive training depends upon the person. That's what, whenever you read articles about somebody died in the gym, somebody died on running, in general, people take the message that, "Arey mat karo." That's a wrong message. It goes, there are hundreds of people cycling, exercising, working hard, and they live long, happy. It is just the one guy who dies who comes in the newspaper. And that gives a wrong impression to people that, pushing zyada ho gaya hai, zyada kiya. If somebody is doing 30, 40 every day, for him to do a 50, 60 in the weekend is no big deal. But if somebody is doing just 5 kilometers and suddenly gets up and does 50, that may be overtraining. So overtraining is a very individual. You should know your level of training of fitness, and most important maybe your age and your other medical issues what you have. And then that defines your overtraining or undertraining. So we should not be judgmental about somebody's exercise routine and try to judge that he's doing more. That's a very negative thing, and that becomes a very public wrong message that exercising is a problem, but doing too much is a problem. It's a very individual thing. That's what I feel. One. And second, whenever we organize cyclothons, they are more for the visibility and for promoting commute cycling. We never promote racing in a cyclothon because we don't want accidents. And there are separate good events for racing, those who are interested in racing. So I think most cyclothons are only for the people to come on the cycle, and we hope that 2-3 cyclothons and they do it regularly.
Thank you. There's one question